Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Femme Force podcast. My name is Rachael Pascan, and I am your host. And today I'm super excited because I get to be joined by Karen Bartholomew, who's the creator of the Pause Method, which is a coaching for high achieving women who are ready to break through what's holding them back, which I feel like is so many of the listeners out here, including myself. And we're going to share in this episode to dive into what Karen's journey been to get here, the creation of the pause method, and why slowing down is a radical act of leadership and healing, which I think is going to be so interesting for all of us who have been in our girl boss era just a little too long. So Karen, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to be here and I can't wait to share this message. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So tell the listeners just, about a little bit about your background, a little bit about your story.
Okay. So, I think as a single mom of three small children, I had literally a 6-week-old, a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old. Right. And so, and living in an area where I had no family, I had no friends. I had no, I had moved there because I had gotten married. And so when I got divorced, I really didn't have a lot of friends. So I found myself alone and I just kind of got to the point where I just got sick of doing the same old, same old, same old. And I'm like, something has got to change. Right. I mean, I never thought I'd ever say that. I'm like, just got sick of me.
Yeah.
Right. Somebody introduced me to a personal development class, in 2010. And I took it on. I just okay. Cause that's how sick I was of me. Yeah. And I'm sure other women can relate to that. Right. But we don't do anything about it. Right. We just don't do anything about it. And so I took this 3-day course that made me really aware about how I was playing life. I'm like, wow. Right. I mean, the person that knew the answers, but would stay in the back of the room saying, if you would be fired, if this happened someplace else. Right. So, and someone was saying, well, what are you standing back here if you know the answer? And so I realized that I really did have leadership in me and I loved it, but I wasn't using my voice. I wasn't really taking that on for myself. So through this 3-day course, I ended up taking a mentally and physical next class for 7 days. And then I took a leadership class of women to find out how effective and ineffective we were with our leadership skills. And that was another 9 days. And then after that, I actually took a 90-day program, to set some really crazy goals. Yeah. And that was the best thing I ever did because I realized how much we are capable of. We just keep ourselves so small. Not everybody, but some people keep ourselves so small. And when you realize when you have a coach and you have somebody holding you accountable and pushing you every day, that you can get some real stuff done, right?
Yeah, 1000%.
So I just literally transformed myself over this 4-month period. I was just like, I need you to do it. I had to borrow money to do it, which was really not something I ever did before. And so I just really took myself on. It was the best thing I ever did. But what I realized through that period, as from coaching other people in business and self-development after that, I realized that what it was for me is I took a pause. I took a pause out for me. And through that coaching program, I realized what the pause was, the steps to the pause. And so I'm like, I was coaching business development that just coached accountability and sales. And I was coaching over here in personal development, but there was no things that brought the two worlds together that I could see. Someone was really good at this, but not really good at this. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start something that molds the two things together because I love both of them so much. And I'm going to teach this pause to high achieving women, which means women's at home as well, right? Because they're high achieving too. They have 15 different roles that we play, while our husbands go to work. And just really help them find real joy and fulfillment amongst their amazing careers that they have. Maybe, they want to change culture, in their organizations, but they're not stepping up to actually really, present it in a purposeful way. And so there's all kinds of things that I believe that women get so busy and we're so, on the performance track. And then we go home, we wake up at 6, we take care of our kids, and then we go to work, and then we come home. We don't really get any time for ourselves. We're cooking dinner, we're taking care of everybody. Then we go to bed and we're exhausted. And so my pause method and the coaching is really around helping women to break out of that, right? And have a voice and be heard and be held, in a safe space where they can actually really take risks to burst out of that box and really having somebody support them in taking risks and doing things they really want to do that they've
Yeah.
actually put aside, possibly.
And that's, I mean, amazing. And how does the process work? Like, what do you help women uncover and like move through?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think, I start out by asking a lot of questions because I want to
Yeah.
get to really know the woman because everybody has different starting points.
Mm.
And I really want to understand like about as much as I can about them and what they really want to achieve. Because asking the right questions really pulls things out. Like almost like what's some things that you used to do for yourself that brought you pure joy that you actually put on the back burner, right? Or it could be that you were a small child and someone said to stop dreaming and be responsible. Well, that would change our whole world, right?
Yeah.
In our adult world, if you're bringing that forward, right? So I really ask a lot of questions to get to know the person first. And then we actually put a plan together on the different questions I ask of where do they see? Where's fulfillment? Where's joy? What do you see that you could change in your organization? Right. And we start working on those things with different challenges and like a little accountability and what they can do every week to actually move the needle to go from, point A to point B, C, D.
Mhm.
It's not like a huge like jump. It's baby steps because that's how people learn and that's how people actually absorb. And if you have experiential learning, it really sticks with you.
I mean, I love that. And I think that so many women have these blocks and like when they're facing them and they're trying to grow. So if you have a program where you're able to like really focus on the individual, that has to be so transformational for the clients that you're working with, I'm sure.
Yeah. And really through the process, we find, what triggers different people, right? Because I always say there's the gap between the trigger and your response or your reaction. It's usually a reaction, right? And
Mhm.
in there's something going on. So if we could really figure out what's the gap, what's going on in there? What are you telling yourself? What is the messages that you're telling yourself, right? And then we
Yeah.
can kind of unravel that. Then we can really like tap into, what's the fear? Because if you think about fear really comes from the past forward. Because if I asked you, do you really know what's going to happen an hour from now, other than what might be on your calendar?
Yeah.
However, we don't really know. And I always say, if this universe, God, whoever you are looking up to, is really working for us and already knows how life's going to unfold, then what do we really have to be fearful of? Right? Except what we're bringing forward, right? And then attaching a story. And then how many times has your fear that you've imagined it actually come true? As if you how you imagined it. So it's really like I help women create a new narrative so they don't stay stuck
Yeah.
and they can really go after everything they've always wanted.
Why do you think fear is such a big blocker for women?
Well, because we have messages inside of us, as a small child, one of my things was, I wasn't safe because of
Mm.
just certain things that happened to me. And, at a point in time, I brought that forward into my adult world. And so what happens is if you actually feel that and think that, that's what you're attracting. So
Mm.
if I feel like I'm not safe and I brought that forward because of some trauma in my life, right? Typically what's going to happen is I'm going to pick people that are going to make that right, because being right in our brain is we just want to be right, but it costs
Yeah.
us so much. It costs us and it costs our families and it costs so much with us. And so if we can like figure out why someone doesn't feel safe and then bust that up, because that was before, right? And that's not now. And if I could ask, I even asked myself at the time, do I really feel safe? Well, of course I do. I have a safe home. I have a safe environment. I have a safe neighborhood. I can leave my door, my garage door. I forget to shut it sometimes. My keys are in my car. My car's still there in the
Yeah.
morning. I'm like, oh, I did it again. Right.
1000%.
But I mean, for someone who doesn't feel safe, man, I'd be double locking doors and like triple locking, and I'd be doing all
Yeah.
these things. And oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted just from the ritual I have to go through before I can actually relax and go to sleep. And then
Yeah.
at some time I was like, I don't want to go to sleep because I might have, bad dreams. and then have a hard time falling asleep. So there's all kinds of different things that people relate to, but like we really get to the nitty gritty of what that fear is and then kind of bust it up a little bit, right? Because
Is that
all of our fear comes from our past.
that I can totally see? And, so many people, we have such different paths, each of us are so individualized. So I think that's
Yeah.
something that would be really amazing. What transformation do you most often witness with your clients? Is it the getting over the fear and really understanding themselves more?
I think it's really about tapping into the subconscious, like of how we do things on autopilot, because we're obviously programmed from all the people in our lives, right? And then we get out in the real world and we just don't even know who we are anymore because we're a combination of all these things that we've been told, right? Throughout our
Yeah.
life. Some of them we take with us that are really good. And some of them, we shouldn't take with us, right? Because it keeps us stuck. So I think my biggest thing with women is really going back and doing a timeline with no judgment or opinions. Just what do you remember, right?
Yeah.
And like, and really, take people back to, how did you feel as a child being in that environment, right? And they can
Mm,
really relate to that. And then it's really like moving forward, of like, if that's not true, how would you show up today?
yeah.
And most
1,000%. And
people
like,
can't really articulate that because it's so buried in their subconscious. But what we're doing is we're taking something from the subconscious and make it conscious. And so that you can really like relate to that and your nervous system really can relate to, wow, like if I showed up right now and I was truly safe, that is totally different thing going on in my body and my soul and my mind and everything, right?
yeah.
So we take people through that, with the pause method, and you see amazing transformation when people are aware of how they're playing life and the messages and the stories that they tell themselves, because really the stories are made up of words, and we put stories from the words and that's in our mind, but really half the stuff up here isn't true. It's just stories. So if we can help people change the narrative to what's actually true today versus what was back then. And I'm saying I had horrible things happen to me and lots of people did. And I'm not saying that those aren't horrible things. However, like when I look back at the things that happened to me and now where I am today, I can see why I'm where I am today, helping women because of my history.
Yeah.
My history doesn't define me anymore. It's not my identity. It's something that happened. And now I get to use that to help other people. Right.
No, but what an
So,
amazing way to look at it and like kind of redefined the narrative for yourself in it.
yeah. The quote that I usually throw out there is something from Shakespeare that says, nothing is neither good nor bad. It's only thinking that makes it so. So our mind is so powerful to keep us stuck, right? Just
Yeah.
suffering because it's easier, right? Because we want to be right in our thinking. But really, if we could just stop for a moment, take a pause and really unravel that stuff, right?
Yeah.
I always call it's like talking about the real SHIT, right?
Yeah.
Like what's really, really going on? What are you really pissed off? What are you really frustrated about? What's happening? Right. And then really unraveling that, such that we can actually start that growth and healing process. And so that's where the true magic happens
Yeah.
because, in uncertainty, I always say there is so many possibilities. So
Very true.
I encourage people to be curious, right? Interrogate the stories you tell yourself.
I mean,
Just rip
just
them
being so
apart.
raw. Yeah. Being raw and vulnerable. Like the outcome is usually so positive when you're able to get to that stage, I feel like.
Yeah. And that's why I created like my retreats that I do for women. It's a very sacred, safe space for only 15 women. And you'll never see me show people's faces except for the people who do breath work. I'll show them like sometimes with a picture on Instagram with food or something. But I'll never, we don't show the people's faces. We show their backs during breath work, maybe yoga mats or whatnot, but it's because it's really a sacred space for them,
Yeah.
right? It's a container for them to be raw, to cry and have that support group because most women don't have that. So I really encourage women to find a support group, to really check in with yourself, even if it's just with you, right? and really just be truthful with yourself. Because sometimes our families are not the best people to go to.
No,
They want
not
to
at
keep
all.
us where we've been, supporting them and being this, whatever it is, for everybody's families. But I have found that I don't tell family too much anymore about what I'm doing until it's ready or it's launched. Because they want to keep you where you've been,
No,
and
a thousand
I'm not
percent.
interested in being the person I was yesterday.
No. And I feel like, how, how are you helping women integrate that emotional healing with their professional ambition at the same time? We're all doing so much.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, again, I think it goes back to what, really, really asking women, what do you really want? I remember the Notebook, movie
Yep.
where he goes out and he asks her, just what do you want? He's just so like, just in her face, like, cause he loves her so much. Right. And she just can't. She
Yeah.
can't articulate, even though she knows what she wants, but she's not supposed to have it, because her brain's saying, no, I'm supposed to be over here because it's what my parents told me to do, but I really want to be over here, so that's so typical of like what we do. And a lot of the times, no one's even asking us the question. We just keep like having a feeling, having a thought. We just push it down like a little whack-a-mole, that stupid game at the fair, right? Like it pops up and you're like, nope, don't have time. Got to be a mom, got to be a counselor, got to be a chef, got to perform at my work. We might be a CEO, a CFO, or whatever. We just don't take 10 minutes during the day to go, what do I need right now to get me through the next 2 hours?
Yeah.
So what do you do when you need to do that?
I've been working on breath work. I think that's like such an important thing just to like try to center and try to keep working on that. I think that so many of us that are so professional are just like high functioning anxiety girlies here. And it's really hard to like, carve out that time for self care because we're doing all the things. We're working out. We're having the job. We're doing the side hustle. We're trying to date. We're having friendships, healing our gut, like doing all the things that we're supposed to be doing or being told that we're supposed to be doing. And there's just
Yeah.
never any time. So just the small act of like taking 5 minutes and like doing some kind of like breath work has been, really good for like lowering my anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. Breathwork's amazing, right? I just did
Right.
some at the retreat, hour of breath work. And, I always share first because it gives the women the
Yeah.
vulnerability to share. So I always share first, and something always big comes out of breath work every time I do it. Um, and so, and then also just the love that comes across the people that are there with you, right? You
Yeah.
just want so much. I got distracted. This is so me because my own daughter was there. And of
Yeah.
course, it was super hot. We were in Sonoma, California, and I just had it like last month. And she gets sunburnt really easily, right? And I knew that we had just come out in the morning. It was 8:30, right?
Yeah.
And so, feet out. And I'm worried about my daughter because I'm a mom, right? About her feet getting sunburned because an hour is a long time to be in the
Yeah.
scorching sun, right? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, nope, she's an adult. She can take care of herself. Let me get back to my breath work, right? So it's so typical of us,
Yeah.
right? I was only doing breath work. I hadn't even got into the breath work 5 minutes. And I was already worried, thinking, I'll just get up and I'll just put my sweatshirt over her feet. And I'm like, no, wait, no. So see,
Right.
it's a
You get to
discipline.
no, I always think of that movie Eat, Pray, Love with Julia Roberts when she's in
I
India.
just watched it
And
like last week.
yeah. And she's doing that breath work or like the meditative room. And she's like, I must have been here for like 45 minutes. And she looks at the clock and it's been 2 minutes. And I'm like, preach,
Yeah.
girl, preach. Because it is not easy. Like that's not an
No,
easy
yeah,
thing.
no,
No, not
yeah.
at,
And then
I
she walks.
really relate.
Yeah,
Yeah, really relate with that. But like slowing
yeah.
down
So
and doing that kind of stuff, you believe is actually one of the most powerful business strategies that you could have.
it's one of the most powerful. And so I actually know people that are like CEOs and they actually will just take a 10-minute checkout under their desk. 10 minutes,
I
shut the
would love
door,
that.
10 minutes. It's dark under there, first of all, a little
Yeah,
bit darker,
I love that.
right? And so literally it's just 10 minutes. Set your alarm, 10 minutes. That's all it needs. You just like do some breath work and then just get up and you can go on the rest of your day. I mean, I think what happens is we don't know how depleted we are. We don't know. And so here's a great example. So for 10 years, I didn't drink water very often. Like it was rare. You could put a cup of water in front of me and I'll take a sip. Right. And so I did this for like 10 years. And then I decided one day I was going to get really healthy, and I was just going to take care of me. And so I started drinking water. Like, I had to do it with a straw and a cup. I couldn't do it out of a water bottle because it would sit here all day long. So I kind of realized that through awareness, like that won't get drank. But if I put a straw in something, I'll drink it. Right. But what I realized is that all of a sudden I started feeling so much better. But I had been dehydrated for like 10 years because that was my norm. I just thought that was just norm. This is how I feel. Until I did something differently, until I became aware and I took on something. I'm going to drink more water. That's going to be my thing. Right. And so then all of a sudden I'm like, now when I take medicine or I do something that dehydrates me, I'm like, I know exactly what that is. And I'm going to get some water. But it's the same thing. It was my norm. It's like that subconscious. It's so normal for us to live this way.
Yeah.
Until we decide we're going to do something different, which is why I give people challenges that are kind of fun. They're like, why are you doing this? Like, you'll see on the end, just do it for a week and we'll come back and talk about it. Right.
Yeah. Just believe. I love that. And I mean, your community,
trust the process.
Your community has grown so much. So what inspired your vision to build a community of over 1,000 women?
It's just, it's still growing. That's actually my goal. Right. And so I wanted to do it across the United States because there are women everywhere. And I just have a real passion for women because of what I've gone through. Yeah. I mean, I've been a single mom for 26 years. My kids are grown now, but I still feel like, I'm still, I'm just
you're still wanting to protect them from sunscreen and all the things.
Oh, still happens, right? But you need to step back, and go, oh no, they got to do their own thing. And so I actually live in North Carolina and they're all in California, right? So I go back and forth every 6 weeks for a couple of weeks to be with them. But I'm like, they need to live their own lives, right? They'll call me if they need support. I usually don't give my opinions. But so ask me the question again, because I just went on a tangent.
No, you're totally fine. It was what inspired your vision to, build this community of over 1,000 women.
Right. So it inspired me because I realized I didn't have community.
Okay.
I took a pause and looked back and went, wow, when I had community, life looked very different. Now, not the right community, but it was still community. Right.
Yeah.
So I went on a journey to go, I'm going to create a community for women and the right community where people, like I had friends that I would talk to thinking that it was sacred conversation and they would repeat it to their husbands. And I'd be like, that's
no.
Right?
You're like, that's not a thing.
I mean, then the husband calls and said, oh, I just heard that you said this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, totally taken out of context. Let me just let me just tell you what I said. And then it was like, that's not, that's,
I shouldn't even be
not,
having this conversation. Yeah.
No. And the what do you call it? The energy it took, wrong energy. Right. So I really tapped into my energy, what I wanted to bring to women, the community that I really wanted to create across the United States. And so that's kind of how it started. Right. And I have now a CEO coach that's helping me do all that. And so it's really exciting to see all that happen. There's a new program launching called Sanctum. If you follow me on Instagram, I know you'll give all that information, but people can actually see all that transpire. So, but I want to go back because you did ask me a question. I want to go back to the pause and what the steps are for the pause, right? And I think then you'll see why it's so important that I picked women in general, right? To, bring this to, because I just really feel like we take on the world and we're told to do that as small children.
Yep.
And then we just think that we have to keep doing that. And I'm like, we don't need to carry the world.
But we do.
We do, but we signed up for that. We don't need to sign up for that anymore, right? One of the biggest things that I'm seeing happen right now is that women are taking on things that are really the masculine role. And the more we do that, the more we actually push the men down. And so if we can and I'm seeing this a lot. So we can help women, right? Like go, let's get back to our feminine. This is not a feminine movement, right? This is a woman's movement, right? That actually can get good energy and like take that subconscious and bring it conscious and really have a fulfilled, joyful life. And it also means allowing men to rise above, right? And like ask for help, right? We don't need to do it all. We just don't. I don't know where we got that concept, but we don't. So, so the pause. So first, do you have any questions about any of that? Because this is like 5 different steps that I want to walk you through.
No, that makes sense. It makes complete sense. And I think it's society that has made us think we have to do it all because then no one else is going to do it.
Yeah, it's true.
Which is horrid.
Which is horrid. Right. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And including women that are pregnant in organizations and they feel like they can't like really have morning sickness because if they don't perform, right. Or they'll seem like, go home and someone else take their places. So there's all that fear going on too. So there's so much in all different areas. Right. So
1,000%.
So the pause. So let's just talk about the pause. So I'm going to take you through it. So I created a word for every letter. Okay. So that's why there's 5 steps. Okay. So the first is a P, right? So it's perceiving, it's an awareness, right? It's pattern recognition. Basically identifying the subconscious belief, that we have that we don't even know we have, which is, and really shaping and changing that to where you are currently, right? Okay. And then asking yourself what I asked earlier, what story am I telling myself right now? And is it rooted in truth or past conditioning brought forward?
Okay.
Okay. And then because awareness is the first step, we really have to become aware of how we're playing life. Right. And what are those things that, really aren't working for us? And what are the things that are working for us? Okay. And then really we want to acknowledge that. We really want to accept it and acknowledge it. Okay. And fully accept what is without any resistance or judgment. Like this is just what it is. I literally don't trust people because I didn't trust adults when I was younger because these things happen, right? So I brought that into my adult world and I have a hard time trusting adults. Well, is that true that you can't trust all adults? No. Right? There's maybe my mom I can trust.
Some. Yeah. There's always some you can't. Yeah.
So it's not really true that all adults, right? Right. So, and then really accepting, and what I'm saying, acceptance isn't a resignation. It's the key to just shifting our perspective because how we perceive ourselves is how we attract the outside world. So
that's really so true.
Like people and circumstances will come into your life based on where we're not healed. Okay. Like if I feel like I'm not safe, I'm unconsciously attracting unsafe people so I can be right that I'm not safe. It
makes sense. It does.
Crazy manifestation, right? But it's true. Right. So, and then after that, once we get to that point, it's like really unwinding it, untangling it and understanding it. Like let's separate the fiction from fact, right? What if this belief isn't true?
Okay.
What if you're not safe? What if you really are safe? Right.
But you've like put it in your, you put it in your mind.
Right. What is this situation trying to teach me? Because I'll tell you, between trigger where we started and the reaction, we want a trigger and then a pause and then a response. But that middle piece right there, right, is teaching us something. It's teaching us where we're not healed. Right. Yeah. It's not letting people be who they are. It may be pushing people to be where we are, or maybe someone doesn't understand. When I was a small child, something happened to me and people called me a liar. Right. And so anytime, and I'm the most truthful person in the world to a default. And so basically when someone called me that, I would like, as a small child, I would just get so upset.
Yeah.
And feel like I have to defend myself and all this stuff. But like, I don't need to live there anymore. I mean, I know that's not true about me. So if someone says that, I have no reaction. I'm just like, that's your opinion. And I validate your opinion, but like, I'm not going to own that. And our conversation's over.
Yeah. No, 1,000%. And
versus like, oh my God, what are you talking about? My old self.
Yeah. Right? The reaction to it and everything else, which is just so innate of us to have.
Right. Exactly. So, and that's really where the point of real power is, right? Because the
Okay.
real power is right here in our minds, right?
Yeah.
It's just the BS thinking that we have brought forward. And we need to really go, what is my true thinking? What do I
Yeah.
really want? What there, it's so powerful, right? It's just so powerful. And so the next one is shifting,
Okay.
basically rewriting the story. Okay. So reframing the old belief, I'm not safe, to an empowering truth. In other words, if we are already safe, already free, already whole, already worthy, how would I show up?
Mm. Yeah.
And
How
that
would you
takes a
really?
little bit because people are like, they don't know. They're like, it's so buried in there. It's so like part of who they are. Really like just start, we give them a lot of space and a lot of sacred space to really like look at that. Now, everybody doesn't go through this, right? Everyone doesn't have to go through this, right?
Yeah.
Some people don't have to like, you know, they just have something that just happened that has them stuck, right? You know,
Yeah.
and they've done some work before, or like it's just so buried and it's like, you know, that's fine. Let it, you know, and let's start here, right? So we can actually give you some challenges that show you a different truth than what you're living with, whatever that is for you. Okay.
No, 1,000%.
Um, yeah, this is where we get to rewrite the narrative and pivot into the new possibility of the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah. And you're trying to just rewrite it and only like manifest for the future and really think about it.
Yeah. And once you start, you know, once your mind start looking in that, what you want, it's very interesting how the universe, God, or whoever that is for you, brings it. You just see
Thousand
the
percent.
world differently, really
Yeah.
differently. It's like, I remember when I got contacts, before I had contacts, you know, I just thought that was my work, you know, everything was
Yeah.
fine. They put contacts in my eyes and like the colors that I saw
Right.
were like, oh my gosh, what I had been missing. Right. And then also
I
I
love
remember
that.
I was in a lot of pain years ago, just from injuries. And I remember going to San Francisco and I was going across the San Mateo Bridge and it was a beautiful day. And I had no pain for the first time in like years. And I'm like, literally the world looked different
Yeah.
because I had no pain.
No. And like your outlook to everything, it just all shifts. It's a whole
Everything
full
changed,
body shift.
full body shift. And so the E, the last letter, is really embody and expand. And so what that means is that, you know, being free from this stuff and having a new world lens to look through, right? Versus, you know, having a blue lens and a pink lens, right?
Yeah.
It's just not a thought. You really have to practice it. I was doing a podcast the other day and someone, how do you not react? You know, when you get angry, how do you not react? I'm like, listen, it's really just practice. You just
Yeah.
practice. Give yourself something. Some people put a rubber band, you know, some people have a ring that they buy, you know, something that you see, right? That just says, you know, and eventually you're going to go like this. And eventually you don't have to do this anymore. Eventually
Yeah.
you'll
You
just
can
take a
just,
pause. Like I've been in board meetings before where someone has said something that like really like got my stomach churning. And I literally will just give myself permission. I'm like, I'm going to give myself permission. I need to use a restroom or I
yep.
need to grab a cup of water or something. I give myself permission to leave that energy in that room to get myself grounded again.
Which is so important. I think people don't realize they can do that. And so they're so
Yeah.
reacted in the moment.
Well, I don't know who told you you couldn't do it.
I don't know if anybody did. I feel like it's just like one
Your
of those
own.
innate things. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The question is to everybody is like, who told you couldn't have permission to take care of your own body and manage yourself?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm
Society,
sorry.
social media, men.
I'm just going to say the world because of where we're at.
Yes.
Um, you know, I remember when my family members once, I wasn't, you know, off and on for different family members. I haven't spoken to them for, you know, sometimes it was over a year, whatever things were going on in the family. We, you know, we all have stuff
Yeah.
in our
We,
family.
we have stuff.
We all had stuff. And one of the family members wanted me to call and you know, fix this. And I'm like, I just finally said, literally, it was probably 12 years ago, you know, and I'm in my 60s now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not going to do that. He's like, what? I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be that person anymore.
No, but that's such a beautiful statement to be that you're like, I've realized, and now this is what I'm doing going forward. How powerful.
And I was like, it changed a lot for me.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there are some things that I have worked through in my past. And then I just had a family member tell me that they saw it totally different. And I'm like, what? I never even knew that that happened. That's just a total change in my perspective, even though I've worked through it and everything and I'm free from it. I'm like, but just to know that was like, wow.
Like what, yeah, where are we at now? Like, look at this.
I'm in a good place with everybody, but I'm just like, this was just something that I didn't know about. I didn't know that somebody was fighting for me and somebody was. It was one of those things, right? And I'm like, I didn't even know that because you're the only one that heard that, and for like 50, well, 45 years, I'm just finding that out now.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's a totally different than the story I had in my head.
1,000%.
Although
Like it's
I've
completely
dealt with
different.
my story, right? I don't believe that story anymore, but that was my story. And I'm like, wow, that is not matching up to my story that I lived with for 40 something years, right?
Right.
Whatever it
No.
was. So, yeah. So, I just encourage people just to and really embody this practice and, the new belief that you can really get aligned with for what you really want in life, right? You
Yeah.
don't have to do it all. You really
No.
don't. The
No.
single mom, I used to try to bring my kids home on that Sunday, that transitional day, right?
Hmm.
And now I help single moms, that say, don't have a transitional day. Just don't try to do dinner. Just let it be because they're trying to get back into your home. And you're probably, as a women, we're probably the disciplinary ones, right? And they're having all this fun. They're coming back and now we have to get ready for school or we have to get ready for whatever. And I'm like, I just got to a point, and my kids still tell this story. I just remember the day that mom said, eat whatever you want, do whatever you want, whatever you want.
Just
Just
feed
do whatever you
yourself,
want.
do whatever you want, live your best life.
Live your best life right now until we need to go to bed. You got like an hour and a half. It changed
I
our
love that
whole
though.
dynamic in the house.
No, but I love that. Gives them freedom, gives them options.
Yeah. And so, and moms really see a difference in their kids because they're like, whoa, what's going on? Because when we actually shift our identity, our perceiving self, how we perceive ourselves, and we make that shift, it's just interesting how the family, you don't need people to come along with you. You just
Yeah.
need to do the work. Right. And things just change miraculously. It's kind of just magical how you see things change around you. Right. So,
Yeah. I love that. And as we wrap up here, I want to ask you one final question that I like to ask all of my guests. And I think it's going to be really interesting to hear your answer from your whole journey. But if you could give one piece of advice to your 16-year-old self, what would that be?
oh, wow.
Yeah.
I would get a mentor.
Different girl.
I would
Okay.
totally get somebody. I was that girl that never asked for help.
Hmm.
Even in my adult world, I don't think
Yeah.
I did it till I was like in my early 50s, maybe 45. Really find someone you can confide in, a mentor, an older woman, just someone that you can confide in, because doing life by yourself, we're not supposed to do life by ourselves. That's
Yeah.
not how we were brought into this world,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, really like find your identity, what works for you and what you can leave behind, right?
I
Because
love
when you
that.
get out in that real world at 18, 19, I
Yeah.
mean, we were like, here's your suitcases and your chopping board and go
Yep.
be.
Go. Figure it
It's
out.
not like that anymore, but still, I still think that we all need someone. We all need a person or a community, which is why I created the community sanctum. So,
And I
yeah.
love that though. But what a great answer. Mentor. Like you don't even think about that sometimes, like how important that can really be. And
Well,
like
we didn't have
so
that.
defining.
My retreat was the
Yeah.
first thing that actually I had different age women. I had someone who was 70s, 60s, 20s, and 30s, basically. And it was interesting. The person in their 70s was like, God, I wish we had this. To watch these young women get to have this and the things they talk about and their perspective and what they're unraveling, like, wow, it would have been a different world. And so I feel there's a
1,000%.
responsibility, right, for women, especially now, it doesn't matter what age you are, that there's wisdom, there's life that has been lived. And if we can help another woman younger than us, like just live her best life the best version she is just right now, because
Yeah.
tomorrow will be better. Right.
No, 1,000%. And how fulfilling is that? And then she goes on to be like, I'm going to be a mentor. And like the cycle it gets so much better. And I think
Yeah.
that's so special.
Yeah. Yeah.
1,000%. Well, thank you so much, Karen, for being here. This was extremely enlightening. And I hope everyone, I'm going to put it in the notes, but make sure to check out Karen's website, check out the pause method, and check out the retreats and events that she is doing, because this is such a great community to be a part of. And I think it would be really special for listeners to be able to go.
Yay. Well, thanks for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Absolutely. I will see everyone next week.